Was geht, Leute? Welcome back to another episode, and today I have a very interesting and ambitious project for you guys, and it's called Ecoaldeia de Janas. Unfortunately, I only got to spend one afternoon in the project, but anyway, I decided to make an episode about it because it's really nice what they got going on, especially considering that they only started like 4 or 5 years ago with their project. So let's take a look at all the stuff that's happening on their land. First of all, it's a massive growing operation. They have many gardens on their land, and it's not just a small garden producing food for themselves, but they are actually selling a lot of the food that they produce. So they got big gardens with a lot of vegetables. Needless to say, they don't use any chemicals on their land, and it's all happening in a way that is regenerating the soil. And the soil is actually the next thing I want to talk about. I went over to the other land next to them and took a look at the soil, and it's friggin' dry. I could barely crush it with my hands, or actually I couldn't. And then when you look over to the project's land, it's quite amazing to see all this stuff growing there. And it's hard to imagine that it also looked this dry just some years ago. I went ahead and checked out their soil, and it's really soft. Of course not everywhere, but where they're growing, and more of the land is getting in this condition. So there's a big garden with medicinal plants. And one building is dedicated to seeds and saving seeds and exchanging seeds with other projects, most of them organic, and it's really nice to see them taking care of this aspect as well. And then there are some ferro cement tanks, a nice building technique that's very thin. I've seen it now in several projects and seems to make a lot of sense. On the land there are many buildings, structures that were built using eco-building techniques. And these buildings are simply amazing. Not just that they build it with their own hands using local materials, but these buildings are beautiful, like a little hobbit house or something. Of course, you gotta have your compost toilet, nice ones actually. They have 20 beehives on their land. They're now setting up a biogas digester to produce gas for cooking. And then there's one building where they have a kind of big scale mushroom operation going on. There are all these things hanging from the ceiling and mushrooms popping out left and right. It's quite nice, and definitely also a source of income for the project. And next to the mushrooms there's a beer production where they are actually brewing their own beer, also to sell of course, and another nice income for their little project. They used to have a shop directly on their land, but they are now moving it to a building that they're renting in the center of the next village. And this will give them, of course, a lot of exposure, and it has a lot of space to sell stuff, but also to host events and workshops and all this kind of stuff. It's still summer, so there's a lot of work in progress at the moment, and one example is a big tree nursery that you can see being built right now at the moment. So for example, if they have a workshop for the mushrooms and how to harvest mushrooms, then one of the participants of the workshops can say, okay, I want to take care of this project, and the person who's taking care of their mushrooms is actually not living in the project, but somebody from the next village who comes to take care of them, and like this more and more people are starting to get integrated into this work. And the same goes for the beer and also for the bees, as far as I know, so this tactic really seems to work. All in all, I have to say, a really nice project, very dedicated people, very focused on the work. They're doing so many things at the same time, and when you consider what the land looked like just some years ago and what it looks like now, it's an amazing transformation once again, and really one of the more focused projects that I came across. And that's it already for today. Thank you guys for watching once again. You find links below this video if you want to find out more. That's it now. Ciao!